Hello, everyone. Today, we are privileged to host Dr. Chandranand, a distinguished scientist, regulatory expert, and MedTech strategist with deep contributions to the India's diagnostics and MedTech ecosystem. From serving at the National Institute of Biologicals to mentoring startups, advising global health programs, and contributing to the national policy as well as standards, Dr. Chandranand has played a pivotal role in strengthening the quality systems, regulatory frameworks, and innovation pathways in the IVD and MedTech sectors. Currently associated with IQZYME MedTech, the pre-qualification ecosystem, BIS committees, and the Maha MedTech Mission Task Force, he brings decades of experience spanning biologics, diagnostics, public health laboratories, technology commercialization. In this conversation, we will explore the evolving landscape of diagnostics, regulatory intelligence, medtech innovation, startup ecosystems, and India's growing role in the global healthcare manufacturing. Dr. Chandranand, welcome to the MedDevice podcast.
Thank you, Sangeet. Thanks for having me.
Great. So let's start with the basics, Dr. Chandranand. What is regulatory affairs and how important it is for the IVD and MedTech industry?
So, regulatory affairs, to put it in simple language, is holding the systems and people accountable for what they are distributing, selling, manufacturing with regard to in vitro diagnostics or medical devices. This has been my domain of expertise. So
Right.
I will stick to this particular two domains, majorly in vitro diagnostics and medical devices. So when I say regulations, you need to understand the current ecosystem in India is the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, which lays down the foundational aspects of regulations. And it is an organization which is constantly on the improvement mode. So when you say the MDR 2017, the first legal binding that the manufacturers have or even the distributors have to adhere to. So this is basically, in a nutshell, I would say this is what is, and the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. So these are the two Bibles or encyclopedias, I would say, which is also constantly evolving, and it has undergone since 2017, it has undergone about more than 6 to 8 amendments, and the latest one is about to come up with a lot of major amendments with 2000 MDR 2017. The amendments is going on as on February 26. The draft is being proposed, and we are expecting it to have it soon in its full version, very soon in the domains or in the realms of regulations.
Wonderful, wonderful. Right. So you have worked across national labs, global regulatory bodies, and incubation ecosystems. What pivotal experiences shaped your perspective on regulatory affairs in India?
So my journey started with private sector at Apollo Hospitals, Hyderabad, way back in 1992. But the actual landing of on a regulatory platform, I would say, my stint with the National Institute of Biologicals. From
Okay.
1996 onwards, I've been with NIB Noida, which is the only central drug testing laboratory for biologicals and in vitro diagnostics, including monoclonal antibodies, vaccines, which is monoclonal antibodies against cancer therapeutics and things like that, blood grouping reagents. So the product range of biologics and in vitro diagnostics has been vast. And in the process, I'm privileged and proud to say that I was the startup scientist at NIB and proud to contribute to the establishment of many of the laboratories in NIB. Where I began with the infectious disease testing laboratory, which is the HIV, HBV, HCV, syphilis, malaria, etc. testing kits in the institute. This laboratory had the privilege of being a WHO collaborating center as well as a WHO pre-qualification center. And we conducted a lot of trainings for the industry and handholding while at NIB. I conducted this and anchored most of the in vitro diagnostic manufacturers, the spectrum of manufacturers in India, indigenous manufacturers, I would say, because our focus is to strengthen the indigenous manufacturing ecosystem, foster the technology transfer as far as possible. So that was the journey that I encompassed. So while the ecosystem has taught me that India's regulatory framework must be transparent and risk proportionate, it should not be a deterrent one. So, for example, in most of the incubators these days, when I go, I observe that startups often innovate faster than rules are evolving. So, regulations must be adaptive and engage innovators early, and instead of saying that, or I would say, I would put it, not police them later. I would use the words, because innovations is happening in the domain of technology, and we are although most of the advanced technologies countries have moved to industry 5, we and most of the still many of the developed countries are still at industry 4. When I say industry 4 and industry 5, I am speaking with regard to manufacturing readiness.
Right.
So that involves innovations, technology. So regulations is always, not only India, even the US and the advanced countries are always one step behind, because they are not in sync with the technological landscape that is coming in on a daily basis, or I would say rampantly evolving technological landscape. For example, when a CRISPR-based diagnostic was first prototyped in a research lab, the regulatory path wasn't clear.
Okay.
So early dialogue with regulators helped, it could have helped shape a risk-based performance evaluation plan instead of retrospective fix it now scenario. So if you say, okay, I have brought that CRISPR-based test, the manufacturer comes to the regulator, this is a CRISPR-based testing platform, sir, kindly accept it. He says, oh, we are not in, regulator is not in technological readiness. So what happens is both the regulator and the manufacturer sit across the table and try to fix the gaps there, whether it is risk management plan or whether it is with regard to regulations or things like that. So instead of that, we need to be they should be the manufacturer and the regulator. It is actually the primary responsibility of the manufacturer to go to the regulator to actually inquire and find out, boss, this is the platform I'm going to come up with. Can you please come suggest me the necessary regulatory readiness for that? So
Right.
instead, put back the onus on the manufacturers. The regulator will definitely try to adjust the gaps, close the gaps as much as possible with the current regulatory landscape they have. Thank you.
Noted. Right. So, Doctor, you have had a very long stint with National Institute of Biologicals. So, based on your own first-hand experience, if you can tell us, how has the role of NIB evolved in the Indian IVD industry over the past, say, 25 years, as well as if you can tell us its present day role and significance in the IVD industry.
Oh yeah, definitely. NIB being the CDL for drug testing laboratory with regard to medical devices and biologicals. So NIB is also a CMDTL, which means the Central Medical Device Testing Laboratory. So it has the privilege of having the status of CMDTL in the country. It is one of the central medical device testing laboratories recognized by the government of India. So while my stint at NIB was about close to 25 years, NIB has evolved a long way. NIB, we started with just batch testing and quality control testing laboratories. Currently, if I can say proud to say it is a strategic enabler of local biological manufacturer as well as diagnostics, in vitro diagnostics manufacturer. When I say strategic enabler, it is actively involved in R&D right now. It continues to, with the regard to batch testing and lot release. It actively supports research and development, method validation studies, preparation of reference standards. When I say reference standards, it is across biologicals and diagnostics. And thus, what happens is it contributes to the preparation of pharmacopoeial monographs, which is strategic, input into the national ecosystem, regulatory ecosystem. Then we also do upskilling of graduate and postgraduate life science students. We have a spectrum of life science students now working into NIB. And what they do is we do upskilling of these students and try to get them industry ready for their employment as soon as they are out of their academic careers. So even I would say in the near future, NIB will be even more critical as India is pushing for self-reliance, acting as a bridge between R&D, industry, and global standards. So what here the role NIB I'm anticipating and a bigger role is to harmonize the testing processes, testing protocols, or contribute to the reference standard preparations. So harmonization in the process of harmonization, definitely NIB is going to have a very big role to play. And our scientists, I'm sure they are continuing their activity. And as I told, R&D is also an integral part of the NIB ecosystem now. For example, when a new rapid test for priority infectious disease was developed in India, NIB helped validate the kit against WHO defined cutoffs. When I say WHO defined cutoffs, we all know what is the benchmark that we have when we talk of WHO in healthcare ecosystems. So similarly, we had the privilege of having reference panels for those products, which then became the template for multiple manufacturers. So whatever we set up at that process of time, later on it went on to become a template for multiple manufacturers. Why I say template? Because it was finally approved by the national regulator, CDSCO, saying that this should be the sensitivity, this should be the specificity. So all those things, NIB has played a major and active role in doing so. Another example is NIB's role in biosimilars, I would say, and reference products, where it has become a trusted anchor for comparability studies, indirectly strengthening India's position in global markets.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I have a question about this AMTZ in Vizag, which is again, you have been associated with them, and it's a unique project in the sense that it has built a complete ecosystem in itself for the medical devices manufacturing. And I don't know of any other project as similar as AMTZ in Vizag. So, if you can tell me what is the reason that this project has been so successful, and why other states, apart from AP, why other states could not replicate this kind of an ecosystem?
No, I would not say. I would like to look at it a different perspective. AMTZ
All right.
succeeded. See, primarily AMTZ succeeded because it offered a first mover ecosystem model. So the political will, I would say, so dedicated land was given, integrated infrastructure was given, and co-location of regulators, testing facilities, and incubation units. So Andhra Pradesh's, I would say, Andhra Pradesh's early political will and focused MedTech specific policies made it attractive to investors and who wanted a one-stop cluster instead of scattered units here and there. So I would give AMTZ the advantage of the first mover ecosystem model.
Okay.
That is the edge that AMTZ has. But as you rightly point out, there are several other states also like Uttar Pradesh, Tamil
Yeah.
Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh have now received support for common facility centers. So the model is scaling, though AMTZ remains the benchmark, I would say. I would put it things like that. For instance, a diagnostic equipment manufacturer moved from a fragmented supply chain in multiple cities to a single campus at
Mm.
AMTZ, which cut logistics time and allowed faster regulatory testing and design iterations. So
Right.
similarly, early access to shared CAD, prototyping, EMC facilities at AMTZ reduced the capital barrier for startups, enabling them to focus on product development instead of infra setup. So, as
Right.
a startup, if I have to, I have an idea in my mind. If I have to innovate my product design, develop, test, validate, and then get the licenses for commercialization and things like that, I have to run from pillar to pillar for various centers. But medtech parks like AMTZ, which are also now actively coming up various centers across India, parks across India, the advantage is we have a lot of common testing facilities and ecosystems within the same framework. That is the only advantage AMTZ had is they have the first mover advantage. That is what I would like to put it that way.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Very well said. Actually, you spoke about startups, and then there are quite a lot of distributors, IVD, diagnostic medtech distributors, who have over time became very large business houses with a huge turnover. Some point in time, they also want to scale it up into having their own brand, and therefore they also are looking for a good manufacturing facility to own their own brand and hopefully export the product eventually. In this case, will you please explain to them how the regulatory and licensing compliances change stage by stage from today to the when as they scale up in this journey?
Yeah, see, you are right. As you put it rightly, most of the IVD ecosystem in India is currently distributor driven. In fact, the genesis of IVD ecosystem is distributor based. But having said that, when a distributor starts as an importer or distributor, its main obligations are import licenses, adhering to the general statutory rules, that is the GSR notifications and product registration, with relatively light, very light QMS scrutiny. Okay. When I say quality QMS scrutiny, the onus of having a quality management system is very light on the distributor.
Right.
As it moves to its own branding and manufacturing, it must adopt a site-specific QMS. Suppose, as you said rightly, in Chennai, in Andhra, in Himachal Pradesh, in Punjab, or in Orissa, or in West Bengal, or if I go to Kerala or down south. So, site-specific quality management system, register manufacturing licenses per device class, and comply with CIDESCO inspections and periodic audits. So these are the challenges when a distributor migrates to becoming a manufacturing and own brand. So
Right.
here he has to adhere a lot of things and look into readiness and preparedness right from the word go.
Right.
In fact, now when the manufacturer has already become a manufacturer, he started established and having systems and he's selling. Then when he gets greedier and his export aspirations come up. So the
Right.
framework shifts to global standards now. What he has to adhere is to 13485 and robust post-marketing surveillance systems, and
Right.
often EU IVDR or WHO PQ dossiers, which demand for far more structured documentation and clinical performance data and analytical performance data. So these are the
Right.
gaps where, if you look at the dossier requirements for CDESCO and EU IVDR or US FDA and WHO PQ, the gap is between the analytical and the clinical performance requirements. So for CIDESCO, okay, win country selling, we are selling within the country, and for the products that we have within the framework, we have as per the MDR 2017, and the analytical and the performance characteristics are set. So that is okay. But when the aspirations the manufacturer tends to think of now exporting his product, the global dynamics and the documentation process and the quality management systems completely change. For example, a
Right.
large distributor that started importing semi-quantitative rapid tests later set up its own production line. It first had to implement design control, document design history files, and build a full risk management file before even approaching the regulators, because that is a regulatory system which is already available in the system, in the ecosystem. So the manufacturer now has to get into those things. So another distributor that aspired to export to Africa learned that even without a formal 13485 QMS system or a batch traceability records or a WHO PQ qualification, it was not feasible for him to reach out to countries like Africa. So they re-engineered their processes from day one of manufacturing. That is it.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. All right. So now coming to the ADMI, Association of Diagnostic Manufacturers of India. I think you are also a member of ADMI.
Yes,
So,
yes.
what is their present role as regards the Indian IVD industry, and what you see as their evolving role over the next 5 years or so?
Well, industry associations like ADMI and IMED, they have been contributing significantly to the IVD system, manufacturing ecosystem, I would say, in totality. ADME
Right.
in exclusivity, it is trying its best to provide policy advocacy, I would say. That is the gap that ADME has identified, that how much ever the regulatory system has evolved or is evolving, the policy advocacy to all concerned stakeholders, not only to the regulators, other manufacturers, irrespective of whether it's an MSME or a importer, or it's a small size manufacturer or a mid segment manufacturer or big scale manufacturer in India, by recommending appropriate inputs towards legislations. So, of a modernized and predictable innovation ecosystem, innovation-based ecosystem is what ADME is recommending. Because what happens is, in the current situation, geopolitical situation that we are in, we are dependent on many countries for raw materials. So
Right.
ADME is again pushing very seriously for, particularly from a legislative perspective, to facilitate or tell the authorities or the stakeholders or the decision makers and prepare a policy-driven roadmap, saying that what to identify the critical raw materials or the key starting materials for in vitro diagnostic ecosystem. And then, yes, ADME, the ecosystem in ADME has, as I said, has a different strata of manufacturers. So each one has their own set of, difficulties and problems when they come to ADME meetings. So these are the problems that we pick up from the meetings in ADME internal meetings, and we try to put up in front of manufacturer, the authorities or the policy makers or the decision makers, saying that we should push for innovation-based manufacturing, risk-based manufacturing. And these two particular things, why we are also emphasizing is innovation, particularly with regard to raw materials. So, the diagnostic gap, having said that, the diagnostic gap in the healthcare system is being recognized as major bottleneck now. So, if you, even though we have products ready for commercialization within India also, but the gap in the healthcare system to deliver these products to the last mile, end users in tier 2, tier 3, or maybe even at the sub center or the district center level or the primary healthcare center. So having these kind of facilities, when I say, to put it in a nutshell, accessibility, affordability. So accessibility, affordability, availability of these diagnostics to the end user, the last mile end user at a district level or a primary healthcare center. This is the challenge this ADME is trying to push its products through of its manufacturers into the ecosystem. So in 2019, India introduced a very good, comprehensively mapped system for diagnostic tests in the form of National Essential Diagnostic List, which is
Right.
called as the NEDL.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was the first edition. Now the second edition also came out in 2025. So
Right.
why I'm telling both the editions is first and second editions after 1920 and 2019, we have it in 2025, which is an evidence that we are not only catering to the needs of diagnostic requirements at various levels of healthcare in the country, we are also ensuring to identify the gaps. So from 2019, when the National Essential Diagnostic List was rolled out, and when it 2 to 25, when the second edition came out, if you look at the implementation gaps and the other requirements of diagnostics at various levels, the NADL is actually a very comprehensive and well designed and mapped document. This is one thing which I would say we have taken or adopted from the WHO, and and we have tailored it to a country specific need which WHO recommended. And we were fast, very India was one of the first implementers of NEDL for the coming out with the essential diagnostic list. So within 6 years, we identified that there are a lot of gaps in implementation of diagnostic services at different levels, and improve upon the systems in providing equitable access. So, as I said, why is it, if in a city like Delhi or Mumbai or Calcutta or Hyderabad, we have all kinds of diagnostic tests, we have a lot of service providers, very competitive rates and things like that. But then when it goes to a primary healthcare center, believe me, and we are still struggling to fix even a simple test like hemoglobin. Particularly in the mother-child programs, where the mother is being constantly being monitored for her maternal, journey through the till the delivery of the child. Hemoglobin, simple anemia, she should not be anemic. throughout
Yeah.
the pregnancy period. So simple monitoring of hemoglobin is still a challenge in very remote areas of our country. It's a huge country, So looking at that, the NADL has identified those gaps, and when 2025 came, they identified that all the tiers of systems are not yet covered. And how do we actually develop or tell the manufacturers to design point of care testing products to be, and which are robust, and which is not requiring any technical skill, specialized technical skill to operate that particular device. So if the manufacturers can come out with such kind of devices where the patient can self-test and decide and tell it, no, at least, okay, if my hemoglobin is 11 now, okay, I'm okay, 11 or 12 now, and or if my hemoglobin is 7 or 8, I need to eat more, what the doctor has suggested. So that kind of monitoring systems, very small yet very impactful devices need to be provided to the last mile delivery. So the ultimate target to look at is the universal health coverage. Which is one of the pillars of the sustainable development goals that we are having, SDG 7, as we are monitoring. So one of the SDGs, three SDG 3, which we are looking very closely, is the implementation of universal health coverage across the nation. So in the process, what we have to do is identify devices or systems which are appropriately coded. The NADL 2025 improvement is this. The implementation gaps. What we suggest is these devices need to be coded, and coverage and payment policies for diagnostic tests are crucial to ensuring these products and services are accessible to the patients who need them. When I say payment policies, the government already has a lot of schemes. For example, the ABA or the Ayushman healthcare, a lot of schemes. So try to embed these basic needful diagnostic tests into those programs, so that the patient has to not to spend out of the pocket expenditure from the patient is either nil or it is leveraged to minimized. So, and
Right.
also I would say the modernization of regulatory framework for all clinical diagnostic tests is one of the important parameters that we have to look at to foster innovation, embrace scientific advances, and
Right.
ensure swift access to accurate and reliable tests at all times. Thank you.
Right. All right. So, Dr. Chandranand, there are two terminologies when it comes to manufacturing. One is called OEM arrangement, and another one is non-licensing arrangement. And these both are very common in the IVD and allied industries. So, if you can explain us the difference between OEM and non-licensing arrangements and their advantages or disadvantages of both.
Yeah, definitely. Indeed, OEMs and loan licensings have their own advantages and disadvantages, that is for sure. But in an OEM arrangement, the manufacturer produces to the buying company specifications.
Right.
So if I am a company saying that I want this product in this particular format and specifications, so the manufacturer in the OEM arrangement, what happens is the manufacturer will produce the buying company's specifications, but the brand owner holds the marketing authorization and regulatory responsibility. This is the OEM arrangement. Okay. So,
So who is the brand owner in this? The
come again.
manufacturer,
Sorry.
you said the brand owner has the regulatory liability, right?
Yes, yeah. The brand owner holds the marketing authorization and regulatory responsibility.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so the manufacturer produce buying company specifications. When I'm saying buying company specifications, the buying company specification is the marketing authorization company, and he also has the regulatory responsibility to tell that okay, anything that the OEM does, the OEM is not liable, but the guy who is actually selling it in the market is liable for all the marketing authorization and regulatory responsibility.
Right.
So in loan licensing, what happens is the license holder gives the manufacturer the right to use its product specification and brand.
Right.
Okay. So the manufacturer produces under that license, often with less control over IP and know-how. So the technology is not known to the loan licensing guy. So the license holder, what does this? He gives the manufacturer the right. The manufacturer, what he does, he just says, okay, I'm manufacturing this, but I don't know the tech behind it. So he has to again. So OEM offers brand owner greater flexibility. The advantage here is the OEM offers brand owner greater flexibility and IP control, but requires tighter vendor audits.
Right.
Vendor audits, when I say when in vendor audits, particularly on the vendors who are supplying you the raw materials.
Right.
So loan licensing simplifies regulatory paperwork for the manufacturer, yet risks quality drift if oversight is weak. Okay, so if there is, so when I say the brand owner has greater flexibility in over IP and know-how. But what happens is if the tighter audits are not there, if the vendor audits are not there, or the control over the raw materials is not there, then there is a greater risk of oversight. So that the brand owner has to take
So
care
the
of.
tech owner, in case of OEM, the tech owner is the manufacturing company.
Yeah,
And in case of the loan licenses, the tech owner is the buying company. Is that right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. In case of the OEM, the regulatory responsibility lies with the buying company.
Yes.
Whereas in case of loan licensing, the regulatory responsibility lies with buying or manufacturing or
Manufacturer.
man. Okay. Okay.
For
Got it.
example, I'll tell you a major distributor, he signed an OEM deal.
Right.
I'll put it like this. For example, a major
Yeah.
distributor signed an OEM deal with a small IVD manufacturer to produce a
All right.
branded rapid test.
Right.
So the distributor retained full design control, updated the instructions for use. What he does is the IFU and the design control and handled all regulatory submissions.
Right.
The
Okay.
distributor, okay?
Yeah.
While
Yeah.
the OEM focused only on manufacturing to the specification.
Right.
So this is the difference. So in a loan
Right.
licensing scenario, what happens? A manufacturing company licensed a well-established hematology reagent brand. For example, I'll tell you, I'll cite an example. There was a very famous hematology reagent brand, and under a loan licensing scenario, what happened is a manufacturing company licensed that brand, hematology brand, from another firm. The licensee produced and sold under that brand. But the original holder had limited visibility into batch to batch QC. So the regulatory inputs or the technological inputs which later led to a recall when a deviation was missed. So what happened is when the specifications and the tech specifications was not matching the regulatory requirements while performing in the market, the product was to be recalled.
Right.
So that is one of the key reasons. If you look at the latest regulatory requirements, there is a lot of emphasis on post-marketing requirements. So if I get a license, I have the marketing authorization, fine. I am selling the product. But now there is a lot of emphasis on PMS also. In fact, by law, the manufacturer has to feed back into the system all the performance data of his product on a timely manner based on the class of the product. So
Right.
by law, it is a provision which is there, and the manufacturers have to adhere to that. That's all.
Right. Right. All right. Thank you so much for clarifying this.
Yeah.
So now coming to you know the prospects of India becoming a global MedTech hub, especially with initiatives like Anusandhan National Research Foundation or Maha MedTech Mission. So, do you see India positioning itself as a global MedTech hub?
Exactly. You actually said it very rightly. ANRF and the Maha MedTech mission are actually designed in a manner to align research, funding, regulatory pathways around national priority, high impact technologies. When I say national priority, the focus is on India's requirements. Okay,
Right.
and also indigenized technologies. We don't want to import or later on become dependent on some other partner sitting outside India, but we cannot scale up or produce further because we don't know the technology. So Make in India concept is actually implemented in the form of NRF and MarTech mission when it comes to medical devices and in vitro diagnostics. This is, I would say, a fantastic project, and it will be rolled out. Already the first proposals were accepted, and I'm proud to say that I was one of the evaluating members for the diagnostics and tools committee member in the NRF MedTech mission. It is very privileged opportunity that we had. And out of the huge numbers of applications, actually, if you look at it, as I said, most of the technologies or applications that we received in the scheme were, actually very, I would not say I would only say disheartening, I would say, because the scheme actually is encouraging a lot of indigenous technologies, indigenized scientific talent. And with India having so many national and state level laboratories in the country, we have immense potential. But nonetheless, we are waiting for better projects. We have identified more than, I would say, a substantial number of projects for the next level for funding. And, we have asked for a full proposals and things like that, so that the next level of funding and grants can be given. So what happens is we are focusing on affordability, self-reliance, stronger academia industry collaborations. What happens is, as of now, not in the recent past, I would say it is actually a better scenario. But maybe about say 10 years or 15 years before, there were a lot of research, good quality research done in the academia, but they ended up being in publications and citations. That was the end of those research activities. But the current ecosystem is not like that. It has the full support and validation facilities, testing facilities to scale up that technologies into a commercial product. So not only for India, we have the potential to sell it across the globe. The regulatory system is very mature, although I would say it is rampantly evolving and adapting to the global requirements. We are also in line with MDRF. India, CDSCO is a observer to the International Medical Device Regulators Forum. And soon we will be, if things go well and the scale at our regulatory system is maturing, we would be a member. This is what I would keep hoping to happen very soon. From an observer to a full-time member, this is what we need to strengthen. So India's presence in such forums will actually strengthen our own credibility and manufacturing support to the global world. So over the next decade, I think this kind of missions, ANRF missions, can position India as a hub for diagnostics and devices that are both globally compliant and locally relevant. When I say globally compliant, if you want to sell the product at US or EU or UK or Australia, it is ready for commercialization because we are in alignment with the global regulations. At the same time, the focus is on local relevance. How much it is these kind of missions are focusing. It is a huge funding ecosystem that is there. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi sir had launched this program with a lot of ambitions, and our scientists across the country are equally standing up to this challenge. And I can see some good projects and innovations happening in the ecosystem. For instance, a joint mission funding project is developing a low-cost AI assistant. For example, I'm giving you an example. A joint mission funded project, which is trying to develop an AI-assisted digital pathology product. So what happens is, and the target would be rural hospitals, because tertiary hospitals and cities, metros have all kind of equipment and interpretation tools. So AI-assisted digital platforms, what they will do is they will have the implementation levels of a simple. If a doctor at the end level is trained how to use the software tool, he will be having a lot of saving a lot of time and accuracy as well while interpreting the results. That is the target here. To say another point on ANRF or the MedTech mission supported consortia linking Indian IVD developers with national reference labs like NIV or NIB or NIMR or NIART or NICED. These are all important, national laboratories where there is a lot of potential to align with this ANRF scheme and provide the necessary testing and validation studies for the Indian IVD ecosystem. In fact, also engage the performance, expand the performance evaluation laboratories network across India. So these kind of ANRF platforms has the potential with I would highly see NIB, NIV, all the national testing laboratories joining hands with the scheme in alignment with the NRF and strengthening the testing validation ecosystems in the country.
Mm.
Thank you.
Wonderful. You spoke quite elaborately about the regulatory ecosystems and regulatory systems. And so, how critical is this regulatory intelligence today? And can it actually become a strategic differentiator for the Indian diagnostic companies?
See, the word regulatory intelligence, I'm sorry to say, the regulatory intelligence is used very fashionably in the industry, but let's see what is regulatory intelligence first of all.
Right.
Regulatory intelligence is nothing but keeping update about across what is happening in this domain, in the regulatory domain across the globe.
Mm.
So, is India trying to remain its own shell, saying that we have enough regulations, or
Mm.
is India looking at regulations happening at US or EU or UK at the MHRA or the TGA or ANVISA or the Health Canada or the spectrum of regulators across the globe? And vice versa. They are also observing India very closely. So they are also adopting some of the very good Indian regulatory aspects that India has evolved over a period of time. And that those kind of adoptions, even countries in the Sero region or the African region have adopted these regulations. And one of the examples I would like to say is our Indian pharmacopoeia is widely accepted among most of the Latin American and African countries. So there's easy adoption of such kind of facilities, which is definitely the credit goes to the national regulator and the Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission. So these kind of laboratories and these kind of organizations have actually even India is having exclusively international. CIDESCO is also having an international cell of regulatory affairs, and that I'm told or I understand that that particular section is also constantly observing and trying to study, analyze, and adopt whatever appropriate regulations that is fitment to the country is being done. So when I say regulatory intelligence is now, it's a part of a core strategic function, not a back office task. So it should be a core strategic function, and it should not be a core. It should not be just okay, regulatory intelligence gather karna hai just because we have to gather some regulatory intelligence. Okay, what is US doing? What is MHRA doing? What is USFDA doing? Collect the documents, keep it, file it, and then no, that is not the purpose of regulatory intelligence. The purpose of regulatory intelligence is actually watch, analyze, evolve, develop, adapt. So all those things we need to be constantly evolving. That is why I said maturity levels of regulatory systems across the globe is the need of the hour. While we mature, we are not focusing on one thing. We are not focusing on harmonization. So if you say USFD has its own systems, CE has its own systems, India has its own system, UK has its own system. Okay, we are fine with these systems, countries, and having their systems in place. But having said that, for the ease of doing business or to provide better products to the patients across the globe, somewhere we need to have some kind of harmonization, whether it is trade, whether it is policy, whether it is innovation, whether it is testing, whether it is validation. So there are very key parameters which we can focus and actually develop. And if we come in alignment with these kind of thought processes, I'm 100% sure some majority of these obstacles can be overcome through harmonizational efforts. So particularly in diagnostics, this reduces approval time, lowers re-engineering costs, or I would say redesigning or reworking costs, and also allows
Mm.
Indian firms to proactively shape their innovations. So what happens is now I need not bother about the international global regulatory landscape, thinking that I don't know if I have to sell for US, what I have to do. If I have to sell for EU, what I have to do. So these are the problems that is plaguing the manufacturers, not only in India, across the globe. So if but the thumb rule is we our regulators earlier used to say if it is coming from US or if it is coming from CE, we can just go through the paperwork and give them approvals. But things have changed in India now. Even our regulator is even our regulator, I'm proud to see even our regulator is also equally looking at things critically. We have emphasized on conducting clinical trials in India as well for their such kind of
Mm.
products. So we are putting our foot down and saying that India is no more a dump market. We have our systems in place, and we will continue to monitor products that are coming into the country. So when I say global standards or competitor clearance patterns, these can design products that are regulatory ready from day one. So when I say
Mm.
competitor ready patterns, competitor clearance patterns is there is a benchmark in industry that if there is a new product, first the regulator, not only in India, across the globe, looks at that way. Is there a predicate device? If there is no predicate device, then what? How to evaluate the innovation? So what they do is the manufacturer who has produced it for the first time, they go by the manufacturer's benchmarks, which is reasonably acceptable. But then what are the products? What are the key parameters one has to look into with efficacy, safety, stability of the product? These are the key parameters. While implementing into the market, we need to take care of key parameters. So safety is one critical parameter, efficacy is one performance is one another parameter. So focusing on critical key requirements of analytical and clinical parameters is also a requirement of this. For example, I would say an Indian IVD firm dedicated a small regulatory intelligence team to monitor what is happening in the IVDR market. Okay,
Mm.
so in the Europe market. So what they did is they formed a small core team and put up a team and saying that, yeah, you guys sit together and find out what is happening in the IVDR updates. They aligned their product roadmap and emerging performance evaluation requirements, which helped them avoid last minute regulations while they were entering into Europe. So,
Mm.
what our manufacturers do, first we look at CDSCO regulations, and then we see, okay, I am fitting into Indian context. Let me sell the product. When he starts making money, and then he decides, oh, okay, now let me export. There he faces a roadblock saying that, okay, the complete regulatory framework is different. So,
Right.
early involvement is important.
Yeah. Very good. So for an Indian company aiming for global markets, so what should come first? Is it CEIVDR or US FDA or WHOPQ? If you can.
Sir, what I would say is for an Indian company who is actually planning to export, they have to actually look at status India country regulations first. Okay. So
True.
obviously, if you are selling in India successfully, then that is easily sayable that okay, now I can manufacture. I am fitting into the CDSCO regulations. I am following the MDR 2017, all the schedule 8 schedules and 12 chapters, or the 9 schedules and 12 chapters we are following, and we are completely in sync with the regulatory system. So
Yeah.
what happens is now the R&D system in the indigenous manufacturing ecosystem says I have the key or starting raw materials, and now I need to design the product for a particular market or particular disease or marker. So early planning is very important, whether it is regulatory or whether it is design controls, design input, design output, and whenever you aspire to go global, first, qualifying your own regulatory requirements is very important. That is the first
True.
benchmark. So when you say that, okay, but if the manufacturer himself is not ready or commercially ready for CDSCO qualifications and things like that, then that is a problem. So I would say fulfilling CDSCO requirements is very important, and CDSCO requirements, I would say, is very well aligned with global requirements. The only difficulty or the problems that we face is the turnaround time with the regulatory filings or the testing and validations ecosystem that is available in the country needs to be better streamlined and monitor the turnaround time for all these activities.
Okay. So once we have a CDS CO and then you are established in the country, then look for global markets.
Yes, that would be the best approach. In fact, I would say why if you have aspirations right from the word go, if you have the confidence that my product will be really good and it is export quality, as we discussed earlier, there should be a dedicated team looking into the regulatory intelligence of the product category that I am looking into. Suppose I am aiming to sell my market into my product into European market while you are design developing and tooling for the industry IVD industry or in the IVD regulations, and you at the same time you have intentions to market it to Europe. So you have to have a good regulatory intelligence of the European market, the regulatory framework, what are the basic regulatory requirements there. Like for example, you need to have an authorized representative there. You need to identify a person responsible for regulatory compliance, which is called as the PRRC, and things like that. So the know-how of regulatory intelligence of European market is very important while you are already manufacturing for CDSCO compliant market.
Good, good. All right, wonderful. Uh, you know, most startups in India, I think, bunch of techpreneurs coming together, working on a shoestring resources. Those people find the regulatory compliances probably, I mean, in many cases that I have spoken to a few people, they feel that's more like a barrier or more like things that delay their aspirations. So how should they maneuver this or reframe their compliance strategies to accelerate their business aspirations? If you can explain that to us.
So you were asking about the startups who are actually doing R&D or startups who are already having a product to prototype.
Startups who are bringing a new product, but maybe with some kind of innovation.
Okay. So what for them the basic they see the what in my experience what I've seen is when you are a startup, the basic lacuna that is coming into the product development is they are not at all aware what is regulatory landscape. They have an idea. I need to design a medical device. I need to develop an in vitro diagnostic kit. What are the raw materials? Who are the scientists? Who will be my scientists working in that? What is the timeline that I can give to them? How soon can I can manufacture and sell? So they hold teams. They put some key resource persons together. They identify technical manpower. They identify the scientists together. They identify the support staff. They try to build up some kind of a half-cooked GMP compliant ecosystem. So they're not even aware of the words like what is GMP or things like that. So they put up some kind of basic infrastructure and come up with a prototype or some basic diagnostic test and do some business. If it is a prototype, they do some preclinical or some basic testing in some animal model. And then they also do some patient testing. Suppose if I am an innovator, I don't find patients for my product. I look at the left and right and center or back and see here patients for millionaire. What should I do? Okay, I'll call my friends. Boss, I have developing a test case. Please come and give your patient sample. Give your sample. Nothing, no harm will be done. I'm just testing. So you come and give it. In fact, it will be good if you have some problem. My test can detect and tell you. So this is how startups work. That is the change we need to tell them. That is why organizations like IQZYME are penetrating into deeper incubation systems. We are holding our regular workshops when all the major incubators across India. We reach out to the academia. We also mentor for startups and even mid-sized manufacturers, saying that these are the things we're trying to streamline. So when we say, then we have a regulatory session with them, which we say that from very basics to the scale of manufacturing requirements. So when we say what is MDR 2017, what is Drugs and Cosmetics Act, they are like caught unaware. Oh, अब ये भी है क्या? So then we say, yehi hai, this is a legal framework. So another important problem, Sangeet, I would like to mention here is, as I mentioned earlier, some studies are done and you collected your patients, friends, relatives, you've done studies. Then you go to the regulator. Sir, मैंने ये studies किया है, मेरे को test license दे दो. What the problem is, as per the law, as per the rules and regulations, you cannot do any kind of patient testing or clinical testing, even animal testing, before you have your test license. Even only you can do all these testing activities once you should need to get a test license. So to have a test license, what you should have a developed prototype which is actually working. So you can tell that, sir, this is the intended use. If you ask the prototype or the manufacturer or the startup guy, with the main scientist or the engineer, what is the intended use? वो बोलेगा सर ये क्या है. तो उसको हम समझाते हैं, बॉस, लीगली दिस इज व्हाट यू नीड टू डिफाइन. इंटेंडेड यूज आप डिफाइन नहीं कर सकते, देन यू देयर इज नो पॉइंट इन एक्सप्लेनिंग दैट आई हैव अ वेरी गुड प्रोडक्ट. So
Wonderful.
there should be clarity in your mind as to what is the intended use, how it is going to work, is there any harm or no harm to the patients or the end category that you are going to imply this product to. So the complete legal process, we will try to make them understand. We handhold them through their journey. And in fact, I have seen prototypes or technology readiness level 5 or 6 products which have actually gone ahead and then they struggled and they went back again to take the test license and redo all the studies that they have done. So these are the gaps that startups or regulatory systems, and they have no idea what is quality management system. क्यों करना चाहिए quality management system? What is the hierarchy of QMS systems that you should have? So these are the problems. The generally the innovator or the startup ecosystem is plagued with such kind of. They are aware. They are all happy and excited and gung ho about their idea. Oh, मेरे पास funding आ गया, मेरा idea मेरे पास है, ये मैंने कर दिया, ये basic testing कर दिया. Then one fine day a big hammer hits on their head saying that, oh shit, this is all futile what I have done. I need to go and wait to CDSCO से test license लेना पड़ेगा, फिर ये studies फिर से करना पड़ेगा. So, but now with the maturity of the ecosystem, there are a lot of workshops being held by various important bodies, incubation centers, bodies like ICMR, CDSCO, Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission, NIB, all the central medical device testing laboratory labs, the accreditation ecosystem. I would give a lot of credit to the accreditation ecosystem, the ISO accreditation ecosystem, the NABCB in the country, the Quality Council of India in the country. The whole ecosystem is putting a lot of efforts to actually build awareness of the regulatory and the quality management system and the risk management system within the production, the design, development, and production and commercialization of the devices or in vitro diagnostics.
Wonderful. I was about to ask you a question, but I think you have covered fairly enough in your answer right now. But still, I'll ask you: are there any more gaps that you have not covered so far in the product transitioning from R&D to a regulatory approval? One, you said ignorance or not following the right path or the right sequence. Quite elaborately, you have explained it. Are there any more gaps that if you wish to explain, especially in its transitioning from R&D to a regulatory approval?
Sangeet, what I would say is there is lack of awareness with regard to risk management. There is no risk management plan in the whole product portfolio, right from R&D to product commercialization. Only a very few companies are actually importantly aware that risk profile is also an important integrated part of my product profile. So when I say, for example, I purchased raw material A, I purchased raw material B, I purchased raw material C. A, B, C are critical ingredients for my product. Now,
Yeah.
now I'm just citing an example. I have vendor 1 for A, vendor 2 for B, vendor 3 for C. All are 3 different
Right.
raw materials required for my product.
Right.
Now, 6 months down the line, vendor 1, for reason he's realized that you are dependent on him for this particular raw material, he will hike the product price. Okay. I, being an innovator, was unaware of that risk. I was purchasing from him for 6 months.
Yeah.
right? But if that innovator is already in sync with somebody, some mentor or somebody like us from the industry, or from ADME or IMED, or what industry associations or many mentorships in the ecosystem that I love, what we suggest is for one raw material, you have at least three vendors.
All right.
So if one guy rises the price or one guy runs out of stock from his godown, you are suddenly your production, your R&D, everything is stopped. This is called risk profiling. I'm just giving an example.
Right.
So this kind of risk profiling should be done across all your critical stages while you're designing, developing, testing, validating, and commercializing. When I say when I say commercializing, for example, if you go for WHO pre-qualification and your product gets, thankfully, if your product gets pre-qualified, what does WHO say? In the very starting itself, they say, boss, you only come to us if you can scale up. So what I mean to scale up, you say I have a manufacturing capability of 1 lakh tests per day, and suddenly the WHO says no, I need 10 lakh kits per day.
Right.
Are you able to scale up? If you are not able to scale up, then please don't come to us. So there is so because what happens is in tenders like WHO or UNESCO or UNDP or Global Fund, what happens is those are humongous tenders. They ask you huge quantity of kits. And if the manufacturer, after getting pre-qualified, is not able to scale up to the requirements of the tender, then there is a problem. Supply chain gets broken. So these are some of the risk profiling. Then another important thing which I mentioned earlier is they are aware we need to build a quality management system. उसके लिए क्या करते हैं ये लोग? They will have standard operating procedures. They will have some equipment records. They will have some, employee records and things like that. But actually, is that enough? You need to have a full-fledged quality management system based on ISO 13485. Huh? And
Yeah.
for our MDR 2017, Schedule 5 is clearly telling you what is required for the plant, what is required for your staff, what is required for your raw material, what is required for your storage area, what is required for your QC area, what is required for your testing, what is required for your validation. See, there are a lot of critical activities that the QMS system says. For example, I will
Right.
tell you a PCR product manufacturer, what they did is they showed excellent performance in a controlled lab environment, but they
Mm.
failed when evaluated in field conditions. The firm
Mm.
had to go back and revalidate with different samples and different storage conditions, and it took about 6 months timeline to, because their claim intended use, what they said in the intended use, they said it can work in field conditions, but it
Mm.
failed in field conditions. So they went back and again they had to do this. In another
Right.
case, what happened, a manufacturer, they started building a design history file. I'm talking about the QMS, design history file. After the first major inspection, they were forced to put parallel efforts on documentation and production, increasing the risk of inconsistent lot quality. So there was a manufacturing there is a standard manufacturing process. They already have the design history file, and after the major inspection, these guys told, the auditors told, you put in extra efforts for your documentation and production. Why, bhaiya? Why? What is the necessity? The manufacturer has to ask and tell why is it required. Just because somebody has told you, you have every right to ask. When I have the systemic quality management system in place, why do you have forced parallel efforts? No, that is not required. So the risk is one major thing which most of the startups or even manufacturers, a very matured, capable manufacturers also. Let us take, for example, a very class D device which is a medicated stent, for example. Stent is a very important device which actually goes into your heart. So what happens is most of the risk profiling in such processes is very, very closely watched. Right from the biomaterial that was as a raw material that has come into the company, but there are biomaterials, and has the characterization done for that biomaterial. Is that biomaterial suitable? If it is suitable, what is the shelf life of that biomaterial? What are the property characteristics of that biomaterial? So these things generally companies, one or two parameters they miss out, and then the problem starts. So risk profiling, quality management system, And these two activities should be preempted activities, and they be pre-planned activities. You cannot start once the R&D is started. No.
Right, right, wonderful. So you spoke about the quality management systems. I know you have worked extensively on the QMS, LIMS, EQAS, etc. So what are those non-negotiables for building a globally compliant quality system from the day one?
Again, again, I would like to say day one non-negotiables include risk-based design control. First important point, risk-based design control. When I say risk-based design control, as I mentioned, I've been telling umpteen times in the industry, I've told many times here also, day one, put a risk management plan in place. मेरा vendor आ रहा है, I am getting key raw materials. There are vendors. There should be sufficient vendors. Now my raw material has come. Have I stored it in a good place? There should be a storage place, dedicated storage place. If the raw material requires cold room storage, you should have cold storage. That cold storage should be okay. ठीक है सर, देख लीजिए ना, यहाँ पे टेम्परेचर 4 डिग्री दिख रहा है, ये तो वॉक इन कोल्ड रूम है, इसमें हमने रख दिया ये टोटल। ओके ओके ठीक है, आई एम 100% सेटिस्फाइड। अब आप मुझे बताइए, आपका कोल्ड रूम का पावर सप्लाई प्लस सप्लाई कट हो गया, अब क्या है? हाँ सर, मेरा बैकअप है। बैकअप कितनी देर में आता है? So that small things, if the temperature, वो सर बैकअप है, मेरा बैकअप सर 3-4 घंटे में मेरा बैकअप आ जाता है, क्योंकि मैं डीजल खरीदने जाऊंगा, मैं जनरेटर डालूंगा, ऑन करूंगा। भैया तब तक तो अंदर का टेम्परेचर 15, 14, 16, 17 पहुंच जाएगा। इट विल रीच 16, 17, 18, 20 degrees, right? That is not acceptable. So these kind of micro management for risk assessment activities or risk assessment planning, micro planning level is what is missing in the industry. They do risk files, they do risk management plan, but implementation gaps is the problem in the industry. As I said, risk-based design control. This is what is important. Documented procedures. When you are saying that I am doing it, have you documented it? Show me the records. When was the power cut gone? When did the power go? Sir, itna baje gaya. Itna baje aa gaya. No, I would not encourage manual entries. I want digitized platforms. Okay, if I have digitized platforms, I need not believe that what that man is saying. I know what is the data saying. So such kind of risk management systems, preferably quality management systems which are electronic in nature, is what I would look at. And why electronic? Because it is very easily traceable for me and it is very easily auditable for me. Otherwise, I have to depend on what this man has written and then what this man has overwritten and cut करके फिर sign करके फिर एक कर किया. So what do I trust now? Is this correct or this is correct? So if it's an electronically captured system, what happens is the system auto logs every activity. Even if the earlier was one wrong, the operator resets the machine, but the earlier log is there. I'm able to trace it. So even the operator is safe, the auditors are safe, the ecosystem is safe, the manufacturing system is safe. That is why if you see US FDA audits, when it happens in India, we see a lot of 483s in the pharma industry or devices industry. Why are these 483s happening? Most of our manufacturers do dual systems. We have manual systems of QMS and we have electronic systems of QMS. Now that puts the auditor from US FDA into doubt. Why this fellow has put partially into electronic and partially into manual? So uske man mein there is a doubt now. Element of doubt that, okay, here there is a scope of manipulation, here there is no scope of manipulation. This fellow says, sir, in these areas, I have found over recorded documents, or I have seen overwriting, or I have seen wrongly documented data. So please give explanation. Agar uska explanation, if the manufacturer is failing to give a legible explanation, 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, ultimately again the matter escalates to something serious called as WL, warning letter. So generally we should not get into such kind of issues. That is why if possible, wherever possible, try to put digitization in place, electronic quality management system in place. I'm not saying go and buy ready-made softwares. We can also prepare in-house softwares. There are now with the development of artificial intelligence, the agentic AI platforms, a basic IT guy who has a basic awareness of the ecosystems of front end and back end can develop an in-house LIMS system with the support of some open source platforms. So there are good open source platforms which actually allow you to build a laboratory information management system based on the current regulatory aspects, which is called as ALCOA, ALCOA. This is called as A stands for attributable and legible, contemporaneous, original, and accurate. So it is ALCOA. Any LIMS that is based on ALCOA principles is only regulatory authorities who come for inspection from US FDA or Europe or MHRA, etc. They first ask is your LIMS ALCOA driven, attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, accurate. And when I say these things, and now this was the early stages of LIMS. Now the LIMS has migrated to ALCOA plus plus. So this it actually went to from ALCOA, it went to ALCOA plus, and now the current standard is ALCOA plus plus. So in ALCOA plus plus, what happens? You have the software is having integrity, it has robustness, it has transparency, it has accountability, it is reliable. Earlier the focus was on attributes कैप्चर कर रहे हैं क्या, लिम्स कर रहे हैं, लेजिबल है, लेजिबल मतलब डॉक्यूमेंट करेक्टली हो रहा है, कॉन्टेम्परेनियस है, व्हेन वाज इट रिकॉर्डेड वो है, ओरिजिनल वो भी है, एक्यूरेट है. बट व्हेन इट केम टू अल्कोआ प्लस, they added they started looking at features like attribute तो है but is it complete, legible तो है but is it consistent, contemporaneous है but is it enduring, and accurate है तो how much percentage. And when it moved to ALCOA plus plus, what they were looking, attribute तो है, complete भी है, but does it have integrity, can I trust this. Then legibility became consistent and then it became robust. So the software model also became mature over a period of time. Contemporaneous became enduring and it became transparent also. Now the ALCOA plus plus software says, the LIMS software says it is transparent. So traceability के एक level पे we also mature, the software also matures. Once the industry learns that the important features are captured, now how do I stabilize it? To stabilize it, these are the additional features that is required. So any digital platform, whether it is quality management system or whether it is LIMS laboratory info management system, it should be robust in terms of ALCOA plus plus.
Right. Wonderful. Dr. Chandranand, I mean, when I met IVD company founders, quite a few of them made this comment that it is easier to import and sell a Chinese product in India than to innovate and manufacture here, clearing all the regulatory hurdles. This has been told to me by at least two of the IVD top company owners. If this is the situation, can we ever be self-sufficient in IVD and reduce our dependence on China?
Actually, a very good question. Actually, the biggest pain point in the industry today. Yes, I agree. In the current fitment of operations, I would say, I repeat, in the current fitment of operations, it is often cheaper to import Chinese IVDs or reagents or raw materials because of lower labor costs and mature supply chains, etc. Where Indian manufacturers are facing higher overheads and fragmented incentives, etc., while they are trying to manufacture on their own. So in importing, the cost is a major factor, given the labor and logistics and overheads and things like that. But however, schemes like PLI, production link incentives, schemes like PRIP. So there are major schemes from.
What did you say after PLI? What did you say?
PRIP. So these are major schemes from Government of India
Okay.
They
Okay.
have, saying that we have some brackets of funding. Like this is promotion of research. Let me recall. Promotion of research and innovation in pharma medtech sector. Promotion of research and
I'll,
innovation in pharma and medtech sector. This is PRIP. Okay,
I'll
so
search in that and learn more about it. Yeah, I
yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah. So what happens is these kind of schemes. In fact, PLI version 2 also was launched. The reason for version 2 for being launched was PLI version 1 may all the bigger players took the chunk of the scheme, and MSMEs and smaller players they could not make an attempt because there were conditions in which they were not fitting. But PLI 2 when it came, yes, all the smaller players, MSMEs, they got a better chance to operate and use those facilities. So what I was trying to say is the government and industry associations, they need to join hands and develop cohorts of limited number of manufacturers of for raw materials. In China, why do you think Chinese raw materials are cheap and they are earlier 10 years back, if you look at Chinese market, they were not their raw materials, their goods, they were not sustainable. But today the manufacturing system has matured so much. Suppose I am a manufacturer for raw material A. You also want to manufacture raw material A in China. Third player comes, fourth player comes, fifth player comes. Government is watching. Chinese government who is giving permission for manufacturing this raw material, they are watching very closely. वो क्या वॉच कर रहे हैं? भैया तेरा जो 100 रुपए का रॉ मटेरियल का वॉच है, पूरा रॉ मटेरियल का कॉस्ट का तेरा 100, आपका द ओवरऑल कॉस्टिंग ऑफ द रॉ मटेरियल इज 100 रुपीज and my selling price is just 10 rupees or 20 rupees. Where do I make? Why this has happened? Because the large scale of competition in the manufacturing of one single product.
Right.
What China has done? China has done, no, we will limit the number of raw material manufacturers for X category or X product to only 4 or 5. So क्या होता है? What happens is the ecosystem sustains. The manufacturers have reasonable margins and they can continuously keep producing that product. So competition is there, but healthy competition. You don't reduce the competition to such a level that the relevance of that product is no more, And then what happens? To overcome the costing, I start pushing inferior quality products into the ecosystem. See, somewhere I need to adjust the manufacturing cost, right? What
Yeah,
I will
yeah,
do?
yeah.
I will start manipulating. I'll start using very low quality material. I'll skip one or two processes in the manufacturing and then put up some raw material in the market and say, okay, this is this. So, but Chinese manufacturing system, whether you go, sir, go across defense, whether you go for a simple fertilizers, they are not giving license based. Their business model runs on a very competitive model. वो कहता है कि what they say is if there are 10 manufacturers of X fertilizer or X raw material for IVD, all the 10 manufacturers should be able to sustain and gain profits. If there is a 11th manufacturer who want to come and give this thing, they will not give him the license. कहते the ecosystem is full, we don't have space for you. Then that manufacturer what he does, the new manufacturer what he does, he is forced to look into a new product. So उससे फायदा
All right.
किसको हुआ? गवर्नमेंट को फायदा हुआ, इकोसिस्टम को फायदा हुआ. नाउ द मैन्युफैक्चरर लुक्स इनटू ओके, ये इसमें तो मेरे को स्पेस नहीं है लेकिन मेरे पास पैसा है, आई नीड टू मैन्युफैक्चर समथिंग. He will try into something else. So the policy legal framework we should be designed in such a way that if there are 4 or 5 number of players for manufacturing X category product, let's not give more licenses for manufacturing that product because it will kill competition. It will kill competition. It will kill ultimately to match the government or the market needs. I start illegal works or inferior quality works, and that is how inferior quality raw material comes. So
Ah,
the manufacturers in our country, They are not mistake. Our policy framework, the government and the industry. This I've been telling in ADME meetings also, that you need to tell to the government, the DOP particularly, Department of Pharma, where they give the licenses and all this for, and CDSCO guys, telling them that boss, आप कोई भी raw material बंदों को support करो, give them enough support and infrastructure for raw materials, but don't increase the competition in one particular area. Then that will lead to all these kinds of cheaper production. They and the ecosystem looks for, भैया 5 साल पहले मैं I was under good profits. Now I am not able to earn even 10 rupees out of one product. Why will I sustain that market? Either I will exit or I'll start malpractices. So by keeping such a check, what happens? The ecosystem sustainability is ensured, and the new manufacturer shifts its focus and funding to a manufacturing new material or a product will be there. So as I said earlier, PLI initiatives, PRIP initiatives, ANRF initiatives, all these beautiful funding ecosystems that are available. BIRAC has a lot of schemes. All these funding ecosystems, all these technical aspects that are given to us should be looked at and used in these directions. Manufacturing of raw material, raw material, raw material. Focus should be on raw material. Now we are importing a lot of raw material. Some people are importing half cooked raw materials. Some people are importing semi-assembled machines. No, let's not do that. Let's do the whole engineering within this country.
Sir, the question comes back, no, even for the raw material manufacturing or a finished goods manufacturing, it's a perception, I don't know, I'm not vouching for it. This is what I've heard from founders. From a regulatory standpoint as well, it's easier to bring a product from China and market it here than to innovate it here. The long regulatory cycles, rather hurdles, probably should there be something? First of all, do you agree with this? And if yes, should these things be simplified to enable more raw material as well as finished material manufacturing in India?
Hey, that is what I told. Let me give you an example. There, a localized reagent production company, through a shared manufacturing helped multiple Indian firms reduce dependence on imported master mixes. For a RT-PCR product, I'm telling you, master mixes are something which is a critical ingredient into the RT-PCR machines. So what did the local reagent manufacturing guy do? He shared the common manufacturing hub, and they helped the lot of local manufacturers reduce their dependence on imported master mixes while also improving supply chain resilience. So what did he do for that? He invited all the manufacturers of master mixes, saying that let's have a meeting in a chamber. See, what we are doing is, if I am a master mix manufacturer, I don't talk to you if you are a master mix manufacturer. This is the problem.
Right.
All these similar kind of raw material manufacturers should come under one roof and talk and decide and tell that how you and me can sustain this competition and sustain in a healthy way. Let's make good products, but sustain in a healthy way. The problem is, you look east, I look west. We don't talk to each other. And then we expect industry associations like ADME or IMED. We both are, see, you are manufacturer, I am manufacturer. We both are members of ADME and IMED. We go to them and cry, my raw material cost is going down, I am not able to sell. But instead of going to them and crying, you both are same in the same meeting, you are available, I and you are there in ADME meeting. Let us both talk to the ADME authorities and tell, boss, this is the situation. Let them suggest something. Instead of you avoiding me, I avoiding you, looking east at, I looking west, and then the problem is we don't communicate effectively. The manufacturing system, the manufacturing partners, we don't communicate effectively. And we then go and cry at platforms like ADME, IMED, and then industry associations saying that associations also are not doing anything, the government not doing anything. Personal issues and egos kept aside, look at the nation as a larger picture. Let us manufacture good quality products. If we come together as a force, the government is there, the systems are there, the ecosystem is there, the regulations are there. If we have the intent, I'm sure the government and the necessary infrastructure and ecosystems will definitely, put serious efforts to actually address these issues.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, my last question to you, Dr. Chandranand.
Finally.
Looking ahead about 5 to 10 years, timelines. What disruptive trends do you foresee in the diagnostics and medtech? And how should our country prepare to face those disruptive trends and succeed through that?
Um, I would say next to 5 to 10 years, 10 years I can't say, but the next 5 years, definitely for sure. Technology is evolving at a rapid pace. We are all witnessing the changes. In 5 or 6 years before, when I left the National Institute of Biologicals, it was artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Yeah,
Within
yeah,
6 years, sir, look where we are. Now we are at agentic AI. So how rapid the technology has transformed and improved. When I'm saying technology has transferred and improved is this has practically been implied in the manufacturing sector. AI ML, from days of AI ML to agentic AI, we are actually implemented these in the manufacturing sector. So
right.
now here a question comes to my mind. Is it for good or is it for bad? Because much of my skilled workforce has gone away now. Machines have taken over. But is it for the good or bad? It is definitely for the good. I wherever I go and telling universities or students or startups or ecosystems or manufacturing, the only way forward is to adapt to the changing environment. And for to adapt to the changing environment, if you think that you are going to survive as an analyst or as a testing person, or as a manufacturer, as a production guy in the same environment, you need to upskill yourself. You need to upgrade yourself. So upskilling and upgradation is one important target, sir, when it comes to manpower. Why I took this as the first point into to this question of yours is India is a huge country. We cannot sit unemployed for long. So even there is already a lot of unemployment, and people who are already working are losing jobs because of them not being upgrading their skills, upgrading their tech-based skills, particularly I would say. So you need not be actually a technocrat to adapt to the to evolving system. You just have to understand the nuances, and adapt to the nuances. Learn those fine things that which you can do in your daily processes. For example, quality management system, the QA/RA staff, much of them are being laid off because automation has taken care of. But why don't you be a part of that automation? Learn how it is done, learn how the software works, learn how the validation of the software is done, how the cyber security testing is done, how the penetration testing is done. So vulnerability testing is done. Understand those concepts. Try to upskill yourself. You are in the competition, you are in the race. But no, you are doing all these things by manual methods. Suddenly automation has come, you are not ready for the race. That's the problem. Human resource, our country being a huge country, we need to address this gap first. Second, sir, I would say uh, testing platforms. Most of the testing platforms are now looking at, suppose if I have fever, let me put it in a very simple way. If I have fever today, I go to a doctor. What does a doctor do, or what does your common sense say? Fever hai, could it be viral? Or because this fever has come in rainy season, could it be malaria or dengue? These are the things running in my mind. So, what are the testing manufacturers doing now? They are coming with multiplex testing. So, you give me your blood sample, I can detect malaria, I can detect chikungunya, I can detect dengue, I can chicken leptospirosis, whatever it is, I can detect. In one test, now I can detect everything and tell what is it there, it is there, or if it is not there. So it could be a simple viral fever also. Then the doctor can prescribe easily the therapy. In areas where this is not available, the doctor first tries simple, the
TBC plus malaria.
he tries with anti-malarial. Then
Yeah.
आप 3 दिन बाद आना. Okay, you come after 3 days. Let me see. Then he tries. Okay, नहीं गया. Oh, it could be dengue. Give the sample. Then the sample runs from your primary health care center to a district center where the facility is there. By the time the virus in the body has multiplied so much that the patient is really down. So these are the issues we need to automate. We need to understand or introduce the advancements of technologies into these gaps that we are facing. Another important point is there is a huge scope and huge already a huge application of point of care testing. Point of care testing. So the advantage of point of care testing is if I can test a simple portable device, I can put my blood sample and say if I have chikungunya, dengue, that's fine. So point of care testing is taking the market by storm, and the future is point of care testing. Mark my words. Right? For tertiary states or cities like metros like Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, okay, the bigger machines and the laboratories and things are there. But much of our population is living in about 65 or 64% of our population is still living in rural areas, and they too need diagnostics. They too need the testings mentioned in the National Essential Diagnostic List, which is of 2025. It's a very good document. Every primary center, district center, sub center, every center wise, the document has mentioned what test needs to be done. But who will provide those testing platforms there? This is the gap we have to close. And for that to close, we should have point of care devices, point of care testing devices. Then India should also to address these challenges while the manufacturers push a lot of these systems into the market, there should be a regulatory agile framework to catch up with the things that are happening. What kind of regulatory agile framework? When I say regulatory agile framework, this framework should be adaptive. Now, what happens is in an innovation-based manufacturing ecosystem, the regulator is also not ready with the innovation that has come up. So the regulator should be in a position to assess that technology right in front of the manufacturer within a very reduced turnaround time and tell that, okay, this is good. So that is adaptive regulatory framework. This is one thing India and the regulator should look at. We have been telling this in various forums also. Adaptive regulation is what we need to look at.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Chandranand.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So as we conclude this insightful conversation, it is evident that building a globally competitive diagnostics and medtech ecosystem requires not only innovation, but also strong regulatory science, quality systems, and collaborative leadership. Dr. Chandranand's journey reflects the critical role that the scientific institutions, policy frameworks, startups, and industry partnerships play in shaping the future of healthcare technologies in India and beyond. Thank you, Dr. Chandranand, for sharing your valuable perspectives, experiences, and vision with us. Your contributions, towards strengthening the quality, accessibility, and innovation in diagnostics and medtech continue to inspire the healthcare community. Thank you so much, Dr. Chandranand. And to our listeners, thank you for joining with us today. And stay tuned for more such conversations with leaders and change makers shaping the future of diagnostic healthcare in India. Signing off. Bye-bye.
Thank you.